Chapter 1. The Rejection at Sunrise. The sky burned orange as the first light of dawn bled across the silver pine clearing. Lyra stood barefoot in the cold dew, her white ceremonial dress trembling in the wind. Around her, the pack formed a silent circle, waiting for the Alpha's words. Her heart pounded, not from fear, but from hope. Today was the day her bond with Kieran would be sealed. But instead, his golden eyes stared at her like she was a stranger. "Lyra Vance," he said, voice echoing against the trees, "I, Alpha Kieran Draven, reject you as my mate." The words hit harder than claws. The crowd gasped. Lyra's knees buckled and her wolf whimpered inside. The rejection burned through her soul, severing something sacred. She searched his face, praying for hesitation, but Kieran's jaw was stone, his expression unreadable, until she saw it. Regret flickered in his eyes, brief but real. Then he turned away. Lyra's world tilted. The bond that once shimmered between their souls snapped, leaving her hollow. Her fingers clutched the earth as whispers rippled through the pack. "She's not worthy." He found another. Poor Lyra. The words cut like shards of glass. Her chest rose and fell with ragged breaths as pain throbbed through every nerve. She could feel her wolf retreating, caged by heartbreak. "Why?" she whispered, voice shaking. But Kieran didn't look back. He walked away, his black cloak sweeping the ground like a shadow swallowing dawn. The ending ended not in celebration, but in silence. The sun rose higher, cruelly bright, mocking the girl left in the dirt. Lyra stood, trembling, wiping tears that refused to stop. The silver mark on her wrist, once the promise of their bond, dimmed until it vanished. She was mateless now, a rejected wolf, and in Silverpine, that was worse than death. As she stumbled from the clearing, the forest swallowed her sobs. She could still smell Kieran's scent in the air, cedar and storm. It used to bring her comfort, now it made her ache. Every tree whispered his name as if the world itself mourned her loss. But beneath the pain, something darker stirred. She remembered his eyes, how they softened for a heartbeat before turning cold. There was something he wasn't saying, something he couldn't. She wiped her face, straightened her shoulders, and whispered to herself, "I'll find out why." Her voice cracked, but carried resolve. Deep inside, her wolf stirred again, faint, wounded, but alive. In the distance, the pack's howls rose, signaling loyalty to their alpha. Lyra clenched her fists. "He may have rejected me, but the moon saw everything," she murmured. The forest wind rustled in agreement, carrying her vow into the valley. By mid-morning, Lyra reached the edge of the pack village. The familiar cottages, smoke trails, and running cubs looked the same, but she no longer belonged. Eyes followed her, pitying, mocking, avoiding. Alone Omega offered her a cloak. "You should rest, Lyra," she whispered kindly. But rest was impossible. Memories replayed, Kieran's hand once holding hers, his laughter under moonlight, his promise that nothing could break them. Lies, all of it. Yet one image haunted her, the tremor in his voice when he said the words. He didn't want to reject her, he had to. The thought struck her like lightning. What force could make an alpha reject his true mate? Politics? Power? A curse? Lyra's wolf growled faintly, and she whispered back, "We'll learn the truth." For now, she needed to survive the humiliation. For now, she needed to disappear before her heartbreak became her weakness. That night, as the moon rose silver and sharp, Lyra sat by the river that split Silverpine's valley. Her reflection shimmered across the water, eyes red, cheeks stained, spirit torn. "Rejected at sunrise," she whispered bitterly, "but I'll rise again by moonlight." The air shifted. Somewhere far behind her, a howl broke the stillness, deep, pained, unmistakably Kieran's. She turned, heart twisting. He was out there, somewhere in the forest, wrestling his own guilt, but it was too late. She drew in a long breath, letting the cold moonlight wash over her. "You'll regret it," she said softly, voice steady now. "Not because I'll hurt you, but because you'll see what you lost." Her wolf's eyes glowed faintly in the dark, golden and defiant, and for the first time since sunrise, Liora smiled. Not from happiness, but from rebirth. The moon had heard her vow.
Chapter 2. Before the Sunrise. Long before the rejection, Silverpine was alive with music and laughter. The pack's moon festivals lit the valley with torches and howls of joy, and Liora Vance was the quiet healer who everyone underestimated. She never sought attention, only peace. Her mother taught her herbs and runes, saying, "Even wolves need mending, my little moon." It was during one of those festivals that Kieran Draven, then the Alpha's heir, first saw her. He'd just returned from training in the Shadowlands, proud and untamed. Everyone bowed when he passed, but Liora didn't. She was too busy helping a wounded cub. "You didn't bow," he said, his voice deep, amused. Liora looked up, smudged with dirt, and simply replied, "You're bleeding." That night, under the glowing lanterns and scattered petals, she cleaned his wound in silence. He watched her hands move, steady and gentle. No one had ever touched him like that before. That's when he smiled, not as an alpha, but as a man seeing the girl who would change everything. Weeks passed, and the forest began whispering their names together. Kieran started visiting the healer's cabin often, too often for an alpha in waiting. Sometimes he came with excuses, a bruised shoulder, a cut from sparring, a broken weapon strap. But they both knew it wasn't the wounds that brought him. "You could heal faster if you shifted," she once teased, dabbing herbs on his arm. "And missed this?" he asked with a grin. Their bond deepened with the kind of ease that frightened them both. He taught her how to fight. She taught him how to listen. They hunted beneath moonlight, shared food by firelight, and whispered dreams they didn't dare say aloud to anyone else. She told him she feared being invisible. He told her he feared being unworthy of his pack. "You already are," she said once. He looked at her then, eyes soft with something more than gratitude. For the first time in his life, Kieran Draven wanted something not out of duty, but love. The night their souls bonded, the moon was at its fullest. They hadn't planned it. The bond simply happened. During a storm that ripped through the valley, Kieran had gone missing, lost beyond the ridge. Liora defied the elder's warnings and ran into the rain barefoot, following his scent through mud and lightning. She found him pinned beneath a fallen tree, his wolf bleeding silver. "You shouldn't have come," he gasped. She pushed with everything in her small frame, freeing him, ignoring her own wounds. When his eyes met hers, the world fell silent. A flash of light, a pull deep in their chests, and the bond sealed. Heart to heart, soul to soul. "It's you," he whispered, awed. "You're my mate." Liora felt it too, the rush, the heat, the belonging. When they returned, soaked and trembling, the mark had already formed on their wrists, two intertwined crescents glowing faintly. The pack called it destiny. They believed it was forever. So did she. But forever began to crumble the day Kieran became Alpha. Power changed everything. The council demanded alliances, treaties, and sacrifices. The Silverpine pack had enemies, and politics didn't care about soulmates. Liora noticed his smiles fade, his visits shorten. He started missing dinners, avoiding his gaze during meetings. When she confronted him, he said, I'm doing this for us." But the us in his voice was weaker than before. Rumors spread that he was being pressured to unite packs through a political marriage with Celine Rourke, daughter of the rival Shadowfang Alpha. Lyra didn't want to believe it. "Tell me it's not true," she begged one night as Rain whispered outside. His silence told her everything. He reached for her, but she stepped back. "You promised me the moon, and now you're giving it to someone else." His eyes filled with guilt. He whispered, "If I refuse, the pack will fall." That was the night Lyra knew sunrise would bring heartbreak. She didn't sleep, just sat by the window, watching the sky lighten, remembering every laugh, every promise. Her wolf whimpered quietly, sensing what was coming. She wanted to run, to fight fate, to scream at the moon, but she didn't. Instead, she wrapped the cloak Kieran once gave her around her shoulders, the scent of cedar and storm still clinging to it. When dawn arrived, she walked to the clearing, every step echoing with dread. She didn't wear makeup or jewels like tradition demanded. She wanted him to see her, not as a bride, but as the woman he was about to destroy. When he looked at her, she saw it again, love, fear, and pain tangled behind his golden eyes. The council watched, the pack waited, and with the rising sun, the words that shattered both their hearts slipped from his lips. Chapter 3. The Secret Behind His Eyes. Days passed after the rejection, but to Lyra, time had frozen at sunrise. The world moved around her. Wolves trained, markets bustled, children laughed, but she moved through it like a ghost. Each night she heard his howl echoing across the valley. It wasn't dominance, it was mourning. She tried to block it out, yet something inside her twisted every time. Mates, even rejected ones, could still feel faint threads of each other's emotions. She felt his torment and his fear. One morning, while collecting herbs near the river, she sensed it, a shadow that didn't belong. It slithered across the water's reflection, dark, rippling, alive. Her wolf growled, fur bristling. "You see it too," she whispered. A whisper on the wind replied, faint but clear. "He didn't choose to reject you." Lyra froze, heart hammering. The voice vanished as quickly as it came. Her pulse raced. Someone or something was watching her, and maybe, just maybe, it was tied to Kieran's secret. That night, Lyra snuck into the forest following Kieran's scent. The moon was half full, hanging low over the pines. She moved silently, her bare feet pressing against moss and cold soil. When she reached the Alpha's den, a stone fortress built into the mountainside, she saw him standing outside, shirtless, his body tense beneath the moonlight. His eyes glowed gold, but beneath the Alpha's strength there was exhaustion, pain, fear. She watched him press a hand to his chest, whispering something she couldn't hear. Then the air shimmered. From the darkness behind him, a figure emerged, tall, cloaked in black, eyes burning crimson. Lyra's breath caught. The figure's voice was like smoke. "You've delayed long enough, Alpha. Rejecting her was only the first step. You belong to us now." Kieran's body stiffened. "I never agreed to this," he growled. The figure's grin was serpentine. "Oh, but your blood did." The shadow reached toward him, and Kieran's knees buckled in agony. Lyra's heart shattered. Lyra wanted to run, to help, but instinct told her to stay hidden. The shadow's hand pressed against Kieran's chest, dark energy pulsing like veins of black lightning. "Every night you resist, your pack pays," the shadow hissed. Kieran groaned, his body trembling under invisible weight. She could feel it even from afar, the pull of dark magic. This wasn't ordinary power. It was ancient, older than the packs themselves. She caught fragments of the shadow's words.
The blood pact you made with the shadow fangs binds you to their curse. Break it, and your people die." Kieran's voice broke through the pain. "I'll find another way." The figure's laughter echoed through the trees. "There is no other way, Alpha. You've tied your fate to the darkness, and you know what happens to those who defy it." When the shadow vanished, Kieran collapsed. Lyra's wolf pushed forward inside her chest, enough hiding. She couldn't stay silent anymore. Lyra stepped from the trees, her voice trembling. "Kieran." His head snapped up, eyes wide, guilt flooding them. "Lyra, you shouldn't. Don't tell me what I should or shouldn't do," she interrupted, fury and heartbreak blending into one. "You're cursed, aren't you?" He looked away. "It's not a curse. It's a bargain. A bargain that cost me my heart." Her voice cracked. "Why didn't you tell me?" Kieran's hands shook as he gripped the ground. "Because if I told you, the shadow fangs would have killed you. They wanted leverage. I gave them my bond instead." The truth struck her like a blade. He hadn't rejected her out of pride. He'd done it to protect her. Tears blurred her vision. "You think protecting me means breaking me?" she whispered. "You're the Alpha, Kieran. You fight, not surrender." He met her gaze, pain etched deep. "You don't understand. I feel their shadow every night. It's killing me slowly." Lyra knelt beside him, the moonlight wrapping them in silver. She touched his hand, feeling the faint tremor in his pulse. "Then we fight it together," she said softly. "You rejected me, but the bond still breathes. I can feel it." Kieran's eyes filled with tears he refused to let fall. "You shouldn't love me. It's too late," she whispered. A gust of wind swept through the forest, carrying the faint scent of iron and decay, the shadows warning. Lyra stood, fire returning to her voice. "You made a bargain to save your pack. I'll make a bargain to save you." Her wolf stirred, howling inside her chest. For the first time since the rejection, Kieran's eyes flickered with something new. Hope. "Lyra, if they find out, then they'll regret ever touching Silverpine," she said, her voice fierce as the rising wind. The moonlight glinted off her eyes, turning them gold. The rejected mate was no longer broken. She was awakening.
Chapter 4. The Blood Pact of Shadows. The next day, mist rolled heavy through the valley, carrying the scent of rain and secrets. Lyra hadn't slept. The moment she closed her eyes, she saw the crimson gaze of the figure that haunted Kieran. The Shadow Fangs. The name itself made her wolf growl in disgust. Silverpine had fought them generations ago, yet their dark magic had never fully died. She needed answers, so she went to the oldest place in the Pack's territory, the ruins of the Moonwell Temple. The temple was said to hold the memories of the first Alphas, carved in stone and song. She pushed open the heavy doors, dust spiraling in the dim light. Runes glowed faintly on the walls, whispering old words. She found the one that pulsed brightest, the Blood Pact of Shadows. Her fingers traced the markings, and the air shimmered. A ghostly voice began to speak, not from the past, but from the moonlight itself. When an Alpha's pride binds his blood to darkness, love becomes the sacrifice that feeds the curse. Lyra stepped back, heart pounding. So it was true. Kieran had traded love for power, and the moon itself had witnessed it. Lyra's breath trembled as she sank to her knees. "There has to be a way to undo it," she whispered to the empty air. The temple responded with silence until another rune flickered alive, one shaped like two intertwined crescents, just like the faded mark on her wrist. It pulsed once, twice, then split in two. The meaning hit her instantly. What was broken by blood must be healed by bond. The bond. Their connection wasn't gone, it was wounded, but not dead. She rose quickly, determination hardening her gaze. Somewhere deep inside, she could feel Kieran's energy flicker, weak, suffocating beneath the curse. She had to act fast. But she wasn't alone in the temple. A rustle behind her made her spin. A man stepped out from the shadows, tall, broad-shouldered, eyes sharp as winter ice. "Who are you?" she demanded. "Someone who's been waiting for you," he said. His scent was strange, part wolf, part something else. "Name's Ronan, Shadowfang Exile, and if you want to save your alpha, you'll need me." Lyra's instinct screamed not to trust him, but desperation outweighed caution. "Why would a Shadowfang help me?" she asked coldly. Ronan's jaw tightened. "Because your alpha's curse killed my sister." The words froze the air. He continued, voice low and bitter. "Kieran made the pact to stop a war. My father, the Shadowfang Alpha, sealed it with blood magic. It chained both pacts together, one bound by light, one by shadow. When your mate rejected you, he thought it would sever his tie to us, but it only fed the curse." Lyra's pulse raced. "Then how do I stop it?" Ronan hesitated before pulling a small obsidian blade from his cloak. Its edge shimmered with faint moonlight. "This," he said, "forged from both packs' blood. The curse can be broken, but only if the bonded wolves stand beneath the blood moon and choose each other again. If either one hesitates—" He paused, his gaze meeting hers. "The curse claims them both." The weight of his words settled like stone in her chest. She would have to face Kieran again, under the blood moon, and risk her life for love. Outside, thunder rolled over the mountains. Lyra stared at the blade, its black edge reflecting her trembling face. "If I fail, what happens?" she asked. Ronan's voice was quiet. "Then Silverpine falls into shadow forever." She gripped the blade tighter, her mind already racing. "When's the next blood moon?" 3 nights from now. 3 nights. 3 days to prepare, to reach Kieran, to make him believe that their bond could defy the curse. She turned toward the temple door, determination burning like wildfire. But Ronan stopped her with a single warning. "Be careful who you trust. The Shadowfang Alpha wants your death, and not everyone in Silverpine would mourn it." His words chilled her, but she didn't stop. As she ran through the rain-soaked forest, she could already sense it. Eyes watching from the tree line, whispers following her every step. The shadow had noticed her defiance. The hunt had begun. That night, Lyra returned to her cabin only to find it ransacked. The herbs were scattered, the walls clawed. On her bed lay a single message carved in wood. "Stay out of what you don't understand." Her heart pounded. She wasn't safe anymore, but neither was Kieran. She hid the obsidian blade under the floorboards, then sank onto the cold ground, clutching her wrist. The faded bond mark flickered faintly, as if responding to her fear. "We're not done yet," she whispered to it. Her wolf howled softly within, fierce and awake. Lightning flashed outside, illuminating the forest beyond her window, and for a split second, she saw them. 2 crimson eyes staring back from the darkness, watching, waiting. She didn't flinch this time. "You can watch all you want," she murmured, "but when the blood moon rises, I'll be ready." Somewhere in the distance, the first growl of war echoed through the night.
Chapter 5. The Wolf Who Watched the Moon Bleed. The dawn after the storm broke cold and silent. Lyra hadn't slept. The warning carved into her wall replayed in her mind, but it didn't stop her. She followed the scent of iron and rain to the northern cliffs, where Ronan waited, standing at the edge of the mist. "You came," he said, a flicker of respect in his icy eyes. "You said you'd teach me," she replied. "Let's begin." Ronan's training was brutal. He made her fight barefoot on frozen ground, blindfolded, with only her wolf's instincts to guide her. "You've been fighting like a human," he said sharply. "Feel the air, hear its heartbeat. The wolf is not rage, it's rhythm." Every strike she missed, she learned. Every fall, she rose faster. When dusk came, she collapsed, gasping, her body trembling. "Enough," Ronan said, tossing her a flask of water. "You're stronger than you think, Liora Vance, but strength alone won't save him." He looked at her bond mark, faintly glowing. "You carry something else, moon-born blood." Liora froze. "That's a myth." "No," Ronan said softly, "it's a threat." That night, under a bleeding red sunset, Ronan led her deeper into the forest, to a clearing where the ground itself shimmered faintly silver. "This is a moon-born ground," he said. "Once, wolves like you connected directly to the moon's essence. But after the blood pact, the alpha line cut that link. Too dangerous." Liora knelt, feeling warmth rise from the soil, pulsing with every beat of her heart. "So this is why I still feel him," she whispered. Ronan nodded. "The bond survived because of what you are. The moon chose you before Kieran ever did." He drew a circle around her with ash and herbs. "If you open the bond fully again, you'll draw the curse to yourself. It'll try to devour you first." Lyra's eyes burned with determination. "Then let it come." As the ritual began, wind roared through the trees and the silver ground glowed brighter. Pain ripped through her body like fire, but beneath it was power. She saw flashes, Kieran kneeling in his den, chains of shadow wrapping his chest, his lips forming her name. Then darkness swallowed the vision whole. Liora awoke in Ronan's arms, drenched in sweat. The night sky above her was black and trembling. "You're lucky you're alive," he muttered, lowering her gently. Her pulse pounded in her temples, but her wolf felt sharper, awake. The world around her seemed different. Sounds clearer, sense stronger. "You unlocked it. The moonborn's gift," he said quietly. She blinked, disoriented. "Gift?" He met her gaze. "You can now walk the moon veil, the chase between shadow and light. That's where the curse hides." Liora steadied herself, gripping his arm. "Then I can face it directly." "Not yet," Ronan warned. "Every time you step into the veil, you lose a piece of yourself. It feeds on emotion, fear, love, grief. That's why the Shadowfangs want you." She frowned. "Why me?" "Because," Ronan said, voice grim, "if the moonborn dies under the blood moon, the curse becomes permanent." Liora inhaled sharply. For the first time she realized the curse wasn't just about Kieran, it was about her. She wasn't a bystander, she was the key. The following days blurred into fierce training and haunting visions. Liora learned to harness the moonborn light through meditation, using it to track the threads of energy that linked her to Kieran. Each time she closed her eyes, she saw flashes of his torment, the shadows coiling tighter around him, his eyes dimming with guilt. "He's dying," she whispered once, clutching her chest, "faster than I thought." Ronan's face hardened. "Then we move faster." But even as she grew stronger, danger crept closer. On the third night, as she practiced near the silver pine border, she caught the scent of decay. Shadowfang scouts. She ducked behind a tree, watching black-cloaked figures glide through the mist. "She's the one," one hissed. "The moonborn must not reach the blood moon." Lyra's pulse spiked. She waited until they passed, then turned back toward the valley. Her choice was clear now. No more hiding, no more waiting for destiny to crush her. She would bring the fight to them. The rejected mate was no longer prey. She was a storm. That night, as she stood atop the cliff overlooking Silverpine, the moon rose crimson, not full yet, but bleeding around the edges. The blood moon was awakening. Wind whipped her hair as the first howl of the Shadowfang Alpha echoed across the valley, deep and cold as death. The curse had begun stirring. 3 nights, Ronan murmured beside her. After that, no one can stop it. Liora lifted her gaze to the sky, her eyes glowing gold and silver. We'll stop it. You'll die trying, he warned. She smiled faintly. Then I'll die on my feet. The moon's light intensified, reflecting in the river like molten silver. Somewhere far below, in his dark den, Kieran lifted his head, feeling her power surge through the bond. For the first time since the sunrise of rejection, his lips parted in a whisper. Liora. The wind carried her answer back, soft but unbreakable. By the next moonrise, you'll remember who I am. The night trembled. The war for their souls had begun.
Chapter 6. The Shadows That Howled Her Name. The night Silverpine fell began in silence. A silver mist rolled over the valley, carrying whispers that weren't wind. Wolves stirred restlessly in their dens, fur bristling, instinct screaming. Then came the first scream, sharp, short, and swallowed by darkness. Liora and Ronan reached the ridge overlooking the village just as the shadows began to move. Figures cloaked in black mist swept through the trees, the shadow fangs. Their eyes burned red, their claws left trails of smoke as they tore through anything living. "They're already inside the walls," Ronan hissed. Lyra's pulse thundered in her ears. "Kieran's still bound in the den. Then we go through them." Without hesitation, she leapt down the hill, landing hard on the earth, the moonborn light crackling under her skin. The ground pulsed with her heartbeat, silver veins glowing beneath her feet. A Shadowfang turned, growling, "The moonborn, kill her." But before it moved, Liora raised her hand and light exploded from her palm, slicing through the mist like lightning. For the first time, Silverpine saw her not as the rejected one, but as something divine. Wolves poured from the dens, confusion turning to awe as Liora faced the darkness alone. The moonborn mark on her shoulder burned like molten silver, illuminating the battlefield. "Stay behind me," she shouted. But the Shadowfangs were relentless. For every one she cut down, 2 more emerged from the fog. "They're feeding on the curse," Ronan yelled, slashing through one with his blade. "The Blood Moon's energy is already here." The air grew colder, heavier. Shadows began to twist into monstrous shapes, wolves with hollow eyes and jaws that could swallow light. Lyra's power flared brighter, silver meeting black in a violent clash that split the night open. Every strike tore a piece of her strength, but she didn't stop. She fought for the pack that abandoned her, for the Alpha who broke her, for herself. "You shouldn't have come back, Moonborn," hissed one of the Shadowfang leaders, stepping from the fog, a towering figure with silver scars carved into its face. Liora met its gaze, unflinching. "I didn't come back," she said, her voice steady. "I rose." Then she lunged. The battle raged until the sky cracked with thunder. Liora and the Shadowfang Alpha collided, claws meeting in a storm of silver and black. Every strike sent shockwaves rippling through the forest, uprooting trees and shattering stone. The Shadowfang laughed, a sound like broken glass. "You think light can survive in shadow?" it sneered. Lyra's chest heaved, her eyes blazing. "Light doesn't survive shadow, it burns through it." She let go of fear, and the power within her erupted. The Moonborn's veil opened, the world shifted, and for a heartbeat everything froze. She saw them, thousands of spirits trapped between realms, their cries echoing through eternity. The curse wasn't a force, it was a wound, a tear in the moon's bond with the wolves. And at its center, Kieran, bound by chains of shadow, his wolf struggling to breathe. "Lyra," his voice broke through the veil, weak, pleading, "don't let it win." Her tears shimmered in the silver light. "I won't." She tore back into the real world with a scream, energy bursting outward like a tidal wave. When the light cleared, half the Shadowfang army was gone, burned into dust by the Moonborn's awakening. The survivors scattered, retreating into the fog. Ronan fell to one knee beside her. "You did it," he whispered. But Lyra didn't smile. She could feel the curse inside her now, the same chains that bound Kieran tightening around her own heart. "It transferred. I took it from him." Ronan's eyes widened. "Then you've just made yourself the Blood Moon's target." The wind howled, carrying with it the low, distant growl of an ancient growl, the sound of something older than the packs themselves. "It's awake," Lyra said softly. "The moon's curse knows me now." She looked toward the Alpha's den, where Kieran's scent still lingered. "He's still alive, but not for long." Ronan stood, sheathing his blade. "Then we have 3 nights to break what's never been broken." Lyra turned, her silver eyes fierce. "Then we start tonight." Above them, the moon wept red tears. Silverpine's survivors watched as Lyra Vance, the once rejected mate, became the savior they never deserved.
Chapter 7. The Alpha's Chains. Darkness. That was all Kieran knew. Heavy, endless, suffocating darkness. It coiled around his limbs like molten steel, whispering lies in the voice of his ancestors. "You failed them. You failed her." He couldn't tell how long he'd been trapped, hours, days, or centuries. Every breath tasted like smoke and iron. He tried to shift, but the curse pressed harder, its claws digging into his soul. Through the void, faint images flickered. Lyra's face, illuminated by moonlight, her silver eyes blazing with defiance. Then the battle, the screams, the explosion of light that burned through the forest. "Lyra," he rasped, his voice breaking in the emptiness. Something cracked in the dark, a sound like shattered glass. Then came warmth, gentle, steady, pulsing with life. Her scent, wild rain and cedar, brushed against her senses. "Wake up, Kieran," her voice whispered through the fog. "The moon hasn't finished with you yet." His heart jolted, the chains sizzled, smoking as cracks of light spread through the black metal. The curse screamed, but Kieran did too, louder, stronger. And for the first time in weeks, his eyes opened. The world came back in fragments, the taste of blood, the smell of fire, the soft rhythm of rain hitting broken roofs. Kieran gasped, sitting up, his chest heaving. His wolf snarled beneath his skin, disoriented but alive. Around him lay the ruins of Silverpine's den, torn banners, scorched earth, shattered stone. He stumbled to his feet, every muscle trembling. "Lyra!" His voice cracked. No answer, just the low growl of thunder rolling over the valley. Then footsteps. Ronan appeared through the haze, sword at his back, dirt streaked across his face. For a heartbeat, they only stared at each other. "You're alive," Ronan said quietly. "Barely," Kieran muttered. "Where is she?" Ronan hesitated, and that hesitation said everything. "She's not dead, but the curse, she took it from you." Kieran froze, his mind spinning. What? "She absorbed it, to save you." Kieran's heart lurched, his breath caught like it didn't want to move. "No," the word came out strangled. He clenched his fists, claws piercing his palms. "No, she didn't." But she had, and now the curse that once haunted him was crawling through her veins. Rage erupted inside him, hot, raw, and trembling. Kieran slammed his fist into the ground, the shockwave rattling the broken stones around him. "I was supposed to protect her," he roared. "And you rejected her," Ronan said sharply. "At sunrise, you gave her pain. At moonlight, she gave you life." Kieran's chest rose and fell with shallow breaths. The weight of those words tore through him deeper than claws ever could. Memories flooded in. Her trembling voice that morning, his cold tone, the way her eyes broke as the sun touched her skin. He thought rejection would make her weaker. Instead, it made her unbreakable. "Where is she now?" he demanded. "On the mountain. She's holding the curse back, but not for long." Kieran turned toward the ridge, the glow of the blood-red moon reflecting in his eyes. "Then I'll tear it out of her before it kills her." Ronan stepped forward. "And if it kills you instead?" Kieran gave a dark, broken smile. "Then maybe that's how the moon makes things even." He shifted, bones cracking, fur bursting from his skin, the alpha reborn. Kieran's wolf tore through the forest like lightning, every stride burning with fury and regret. The wind howled in his ears, branches snapping beneath his paws. The scent of blood grew stronger as he neared the cliffs. There she was, Liora, standing at the edge of the world, her hair whipping in the wind, the mark on her shoulder glowing a violent red. The curse pulsed like a heartbeat beneath her skin, each wave making her tremble. "Liora!" Kieran's voice echoed against the mountains. She turned slowly, exhaustion etched into her face. "You shouldn't be here. I shouldn't have taken your punishment." "It wasn't punishment. It was choice." The moonlight glinted off her tears. "You were dying, Kieran. I could have let you," he snapped, his voice breaking. "You think I deserve this?" She looked at him for a long, quiet moment. "I don't care what you deserve. I care what's right." Her knees buckled, and Kieran caught her before she fell. Her pulse was weak, her warmth fading. "You're not dying on me. Not now. Not after this." But the curse pulsed harder, as if it disagreed. The moon bled across the sky, painting them both in silver and crimson. Lyra's hand trembled as she reached for his face. "You finally see me," she whispered. "I always did," he said, his voice thick with guilt. "I just looked too late." The curse flared between them, glowing like wildfire. "It's feeding on your bond," Ronan shouted, appearing behind them. "If you don't sever it, it'll consume you both." But Kieran shook his head, cradling Liora closer. "No," he said. "If the moon tied us to this, then the moon will unbind us." He tilted his head back and howled, not in rage this time, but in surrender. His cry carried through the valley, echoing off mountains, stirring ancient spirits. The moon flickered, its light stuttering like a heartbeat. For a moment, it was as if the world held its breath. Then silence. The mark on Lyra's skin dimmed, the wind softened, and Kieran collapsed beside her, exhausted, but alive. When she opened her eyes, his hand was in hers. He smiled faintly. "Sunrise again, and I'm still here." She smiled weakly back. "Then maybe this time you won't waste it."
Chapter 8. The Blood Moon's Price. The world was too still after the storm. The forest no longer whispered, the air no longer hummed, as if Silver Pine itself was holding its breath. Lyra lay beneath the fading moonlight, her heartbeat slow but steady. Kieran sat beside her, silent, his once proud eyes now heavy with something new. Fear. "You should rest," he said, brushing a leaf from her hair. "You need to heal." She smiled faintly. "You say that like I can." The mark on her shoulder pulsed dimly, now less a wound, more a warning.
Every beat of it made her veins shimmer faintly silver. The curse wasn't gone, only sleeping. "The moon's not finished," she whispered. Kieran looked up at the dimming sky, then back to her. "Then we'll fight it again." "No." Her tone softened, but her eyes were steady. "You don't fight the moon, you answer it." He frowned, confused. "Answer it how?" Liora closed her eyes. The wind shifted, cold and sharp. "By giving it what it's owed." A chill crept up Kieran's spine. Deep down he knew what she meant, and he refused to believe it. "No," he said quietly, "not you." But destiny had already begun to stir. Later that night they climbed the ridge overlooking the valley, the same place she had stood when the Shadowfangs came. The village below flickered with small fires as survivors rebuilt their dens. "They're alive because of you," Kieran said softly. "They're alive because of us," she corrected. Her voice carried the calm weight of truth. "But they won't stay that way unless we finish this." The blood moon was only a night away. Its shadow already painted the horizon in deep crimson. "When it rises, the curse will wake completely. And if it finds me still breathing, it'll spread, not just through Silverpine, but through every pack." Kieran turned to her sharply. "Then we'll stop it before it rises." "You can't stop what's older than creation. You can only pay its price." He grabbed her wrist, his grip desperate. "Then I'll pay it, whatever it takes." She met his gaze, her voice breaking. "It doesn't work that way, Kieran. It chooses the bearer. The curse marked me the moment you rejected me." Her words hit him harder than claws. The curse wasn't punishment, it was consequence. As night deepened, Liora wandered into the Moonvale Grove, the ancient clearing where the first wolves were born. The trees glowed faintly with silver veins, their roots pulsing with life. She knelt beside the sacred spring and gazed at her reflection. Her eyes shimmered with the faint light of two moons, the gentle one above and the burning one within. "You're early," a voice said from the shadows. Ronan stepped into view, his blade resting across his back. "I thought you'd wait for dawn." "There won't be a dawn if I wait," she said simply. "The moon's already calling me." Ronan's expression softened. "Does he know?" She shook her head. "Not yet." He sighed. "You're braver than the stories ever said, Liora Vance." She smiled weakly. "No, just tired of being scared." She touched the water again, and visions rippled through the reflection. Wolves screaming under a red sky, mountains burning, the moon bleeding light. But then a single image lingered. Kieran, standing alone under the stars, his eyes full of sorrow. "Tell him," she whispered, voice trembling. "When it happens, tell him I never stopped choosing him." When Kieran found her again, she stood at the grove's center, bathed in moonlight. "Liora!" He ran to her, panic in his voice. "What are you doing?" She turned, her expression calm. "Answering the moon." The mark on her shoulder blazed to life, silver and crimson swirling together like storm clouds. "No," he growled, stepping closer. "You don't get to die for me." "This isn't about you anymore. It's about every life this curse could touch." The ground trembled, wind rising in sharp bursts. The blood moon began to climb the horizon, a perfect circle of burning red. "You can't stop it," she whispered, "but you can remember." "Remember what?" "Who I was before you broke me." Tears burned his eyes. "Liora, don't," she said softly. "I've forgiven you long ago." The light intensified, wrapping around her like a cocoon of silver fire. Kieran reached out, but the force threw him backward, slamming him against the roots of an ancient tree. "Lyra!" he screamed, but she was already fading, her body lifting toward the rising moon. The forest roared with wind and sorrow. The Moonborn was becoming something else.
Chapter 9. The Moonborn's Return. 3 nights after the blood moon's fall, Silver Pine was eerily quiet. The fires had died, but the wounds remained. Burned forests, shattered dens, and the hollow ache of loss that refused to fade. Kieran walked alone through the ruins, his wolf restless beneath his skin. He hadn't slept since the night Lyra vanished into the light. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her, reaching for him, smiling through pain, then fading like mist. The pack avoided him now. Some feared his rage, others pitied his grief, but all of them whispered the same name, Moonborn. He stopped by the grove where the flowers still bloomed, silver petals swaying softly in the morning wind. "You said to make it mean something. But how?" His fingers brushed the petals. They pulsed faintly, once, twice, like a heartbeat. He froze. The ground beneath his hand trembled. The air thickened with static. From deep below, something ancient stirred. Not the curse, but the power that came after it. The flower's glow spread through the roots, into the earth, into the sky. And then, her voice. Soft, broken, and real. "Kieran, it's not over." He stumbled backward, heart pounding. "Lyra?" The whisper came again, stronger this time. "Follow the moon." He looked up. The sky was cloudless, but a pale shimmer of silver light stretched across it, forming a path toward the northern peaks, the mountain she once called sacred. "Ronan!" he shouted, his voice echoing through the valley. Moments later, Ronan appeared, sword in hand, eyes wide. "What happened?" "She's calling me," he said, his voice trembling. "The Moonborn! She's alive!" Ronan stared at the glowing path, disbelief and fear clashing in his gaze. "That light isn't hers," he warned. "It's what's left of her." Kieran's jaw tightened. "Then I'll follow it until it isn't." Before Ronan could stop him, Kieran shifted, fur tearing through his skin, and sprinted into the forest. The ground shook with every step, the light guiding him deeper into the mountains. Trees bent toward the glow as he passed. The air grew colder, thinner, charged with a strange sacred hum. And when he reached the cliff's edge, the world below shimmered with silver mist. At its center stood a figure, cloaked in moonlight, barefoot, still, and familiar. She stood at the heart of the mist, her hair flowing like liquid silver, eyes closed, body barely touching the ground. Lyra. But she was changed. Her mark no longer burned red. It glowed white, soft and pure. "Lyra!" Kieran's voice cracked through the silence. Her eyes fluttered open, and for a moment he saw her, truly her, before the light behind her flared violently. "You shouldn't have come," she whispered. Her voice echoed twice, one mortal, one divine. "You're supposed to live." "Not without you," he said, stepping closer. The mist coiled around him, humming with strange energy. "You're dead," she said softly. "You just haven't realized it yet." He froze. "What are you talking about?" "When I took the curse, our souls intertwined. When I died, part of you did too. The moon kept you alive because it wasn't finished with us." I shook my head, refusing. "Then finish it with me." "No," she said, eyes glistening. "It finishes with choice." The light flickered. One lives, one fades. That's the moon's balance. And for the first time, Kieran understood the price of resurrection. The ground trembled as the blood moon began to rise once more,
smaller, but fiercer. Lyra's body wavered in the light, like a candle fighting the wind. "It's not supposed to come back," Kieran said, horror dawning. "It's feeding on our bond," she whispered. "It wants permanence." The wind howled, the air pulsing with violent energy. Kieran reached for her hand, and this time she didn't pull away. Their fingers touched, and light exploded. Images flashed between them, their first meeting, their laughter by the river, the rejection at sunrise, the war at moonlight, her sacrifice, his grief. "We were never meant to destroy each other," she said softly. "We were meant to teach the moon what love costs." Her voice trembled, her body fading with each word. "But if I stay, it'll take you. If you stay, it'll take me. You have to let go." He gritted his teeth. "I can't." She smiled sadly. "You already did once, and look how strong it made me." He pulled her close, pressing his forehead against hers. "Then let it take me instead." But the moon had already chosen. The sky split open with white fire. The blood moon shrieked, a sound like worlds breaking. Lyra's body glowed brighter, her tears streaming silver. "Kieran!" she cried. "Don't forget!" Her voice was lost in the explosion. The mountain shook, trees bending under the force. When the light faded, Kieran was alone again. The mist was gone, the air was cold, and where she had stood, only a single silver wolf remained, its eyes glowing faintly blue. The wolf stepped forward, tilting its head. Kieran knelt, heart trembling. "Lyra!" The wolf pressed its forehead against his chest, then vanished into a burst of light that sank into his skin. A pulse of warmth spread through him, calm and eternal. The mark on his arm glowed faintly white. The curse was gone. The bond had become something new, a memory that lived inside his soul. He looked up at the now pale moon, tears falling silently. "I'll carry you," he whispered. The wind rustled the leaves, soft, almost like laughter. The night was finally still, but the legend of the moonborn was only beginning to rise.
Chapter 10. When the Sun Found the Moon. Dawn came slowly over Silverpine for the first time in years. The air was still heavy with the echoes of the battle, but the light that spilled through the broken canopy felt different, warm, golden, alive. Kiram stood on the ridge overlooking the valley. The once burned forest now shimmered with new sprouts, tiny green veins pushing through ash. The pack had begun to rebuild. Wolves who once lived in fear now moved freely among the ruins, carrying stones, tending fires, healing each other. But Kiran stayed apart, quiet, distant, marked by something deeper than grief. The white mark on his arm pulsed faintly, a living reminder of her. Sometimes he could hear her laugh in the wind, soft and teasing, like she never left. "You really did it," Ronan said, behind him, voice heavy with pride and sorrow. "You broke the curse." Kiran nodded, but didn't smile. "No," he whispered, "she did." He looked up at the morning sky, where the moon lingered faintly beside the rising sun, the two lights touching for a heartbeat. A symbol, he thought, not of endings, but of harmony finally restored. Weeks passed. Silverpine flourished. The river that had once run black now shimmered clear as crystal. Flowers bloomed where blood once spilled. The howl of newborn pups echoed in the valleys, their voices strong, untamed, and full of life. The elders called it the moonborn era. They told stories to the young, stories of a woman who defied destiny, who turned curse into balance, who became one with the light that once destroyed her.
Her name was whispered every full moon. Liora, the moonborn, the wolf who loved beyond death. Chiron never corrected them. He built her a shrine beneath the silver tree, the same place she was reborn, and each night he lit a single flame in her honor. "You'd hate this," he murmured one evening, setting the candle down. "You always said you weren't made for worship." A breeze rustled the branches, and he swore he heard her whisper back, "Then make it a promise, not a prayer." He smiled faintly. From that night on, no one prayed to the moonborn. They lived by her words instead. Love fiercely, die bravely, choose always. But balance never stays still for long. One morning, the pack gathered at the edge of the northern woods, where the silver flower had bloomed the night Lyra's spirit returned. It was gone. In its place stood a small sapling with leaves that shimmered gold under sunlight, silver under moonlight. A fusion of both worlds. "She's still changing," Chiron whispered, kneeling beside it. Ronan placed a hand on his shoulder. "Maybe it's her way of saying she's not done." Chiron nodded. That night he dreamed again, but this time there was no battle, no blood, no sorrow. Just Lyra standing in a meadow, barefoot, the gold-silver tree blooming behind her. "You kept your promise," she said. "Now it's time to make a new one." "What kind?" he asked. "To live," she said simply, "and teach others to do the same." He reached for her, but she faded into light. When he awoke, the moon and sun hung side by side in the sky, a rare eclipse of balance. The pack howled, not in grief, but in reverence, and Chiron howled with them, his voice steady and whole for the first time. Years passed. Chiron grew older, wiser. The mark on his arm dimmed, but the light inside him never did. He became the alpha, not by blood or dominance, but by wisdom. Under his lead, Silverpine thrived, the packs united, the wars ceased, and on nights of eclipse they gathered under the golden silver tree, telling stories of the moonborn and the cursed alpha who loved her. But to Chiron, those weren't stories, they were memories, living and breathing through every heartbeat of the forest. Sometimes he'd wander alone to the mountain top, where the mist still glowed faintly silver. "Are you still watching?" he'd ask the wind. And sometimes it answered, with warmth, with scent, with peace. When he finally lay beneath the tree for the last time, he wasn't afraid. The moon was full, the sun was rising. He smiled, eyes closing to the glow of both. "Found you," he whispered. The wind stilled. Then the forest exhaled, and the white mark on his arm flared one last time before fading completely. Centuries later, when Silverpine had become legend, travelers spoke of a forest where light never fully left, where wolves with silver eyes guarded the trees, and the moon and sun seemed to share the same sky. They said if you stood beneath the golden silver tree and listened closely, you could hear two voices in the wind, one fierce, one calm, whispering to each other, laughing softly. The scholars called it myth, the poets called it love, but the wolves called it truth. The story of the moonborn and the alpha who loved her lived on, not as tragedy, but as proof that even in a world born of shadow, love could rewrite the laws of light. And on nights when the moon met the sun just right, the whole forest shimmered like the night Lyra returned, as if the heavens themselves bowed to their story, because some bonds don't end in death, some become the dawn itself.